We're previewing the Class 2A state championship game Friday at noon at War Memorial Stadium here in Laramie, and joined by the head coach of the Lovell Bulldogs, and that is Nicc Crosby. And Nicc, you and I were talking before we got going here, and I was just congratulations on making it back to Laramie, because truly that's no easy feat, especially in 2A these days, how competitive that division seems to be. What are your thoughts about your team here? As one, you make it back, but two, how you're playing as you're in the playoffs here, getting ready for the title game.
I'm pleased with our team, and like you say, getting back in the title game, it requires a lot that's in your control, but it certainly takes a little bit of luck. You got to have things kind of go your way. Feel like we're getting healthy at the right time. It was fun to look down on the field the other day and not see kids on crutches for the first time in a very long time. So, no, that was encouraging. But I feel like we have a pretty veteran group, a lot of experience in these types of situations. We've got a tall task ahead of us, but I like the guys I'm going into battle with.
I was going to ask you, what is the benefit of being in this game last year and then having a lot of the same kids back this year?
It's just a different environment there. We talked about it today as we ate lunch, the seniors, and just there's some things that you don't anticipate. And having been there last year, there's definitely some things that we'll do a little bit differently this year in preparation. Nothing big. I mean, you still play the game of football, but there are some little things. And then just being familiar with the moment and not getting overwhelmed by that. Some of them admitted last year they caught themselves checking out the Jumbotron and losing focus a couple of times. So hopefully that novelty's worn off a little bit and we can keep our focus a little bit better too.
Gotcha. Bighorn, week one, so long ago. So kind of a two-part question. Can you take much from that game? Do you even take much for that game, I guess? Kind of similar.
I think there's definitely things you can take from that, but we've both evolved so much throughout the season. I think right now with their quarterback, there's a lot more designed runs, whereas when we played him at first, he got 80 yards against us, mainly just scrambling and things like that. So, no, definitely we've both evolved, but we know we played them every year the last 3 years. We know they're going to have a good game plan. We know they're going to play hard. They've got multiple threats offensively. They play very hard-nosed defense. So we know we've got our work cut out for us, and we're going to have to play really good football if we want to come out on top on Friday.
In your opinion, from your perspective, what's kind of the key matchup for your team against Bighorn?
Boy, that's a great question. As you look at total yards, their quarterback, he does it all for him. He's a great kicker for him as well. So, I mean, you're not going to stop him. He's got the ball in his hands on every single play offensively. But certainly we've got to be able to limit him. And that includes being able to play good pass defense, controlling our rush lanes. And then he's hard to bring down. There's not too many times the first guy brings him down. So if we can not let him go crazy on us on Friday, that'll give us an opportunity to be in the game. If he takes over, we're going to have a really hard time being able to put up enough points to win.
You guys played such a close game right down to the wire. I mean, inside the 5-yard line, I think, is how that game kind of finished. I was talking with Coach McLaughlin. He just said there was kind of a different atmosphere around that game, even though it was week one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. They just have such a great tradition there. And every year we've played since I've been here, they've always been good, close, competitive games. I think we both have a lot of respect for each other. And, there's always a thought that it could be a possible rematch in the playoffs, or as it turns out this year in the state championship game. So it's kind of a playoff atmosphere. They always have a good crowd over there. And it was electric. It was exciting. Like you said, came down to the last play where they had an opportunity to possibly tie up the game. Our guys made a really good play there at the end, a really heads up play to cause that fumble. But got to know that they're awfully hungry. Certainly feel like they've probably got some vengeance on their mind, and don't blame them. They were right there. Had a great opportunity. So from that standpoint, I don't expect much different. Both teams are going to be extremely motivated. We both respect each other a lot. And now there's even more on the line. So should be a nice, competitive, intense football game.
So what's kind of your key, you think? I'm not asking for a game plan. I don't want you to, reveal any hidden tricks or anything up your sleeve, so to speak. But what are you really focusing on with your group this week?
I think it's just a lot of the little things. This year, I'm a Wyoming Cowboys fan, and I call it, this year I think they're winning on the margins, where they lost a lot of players to the transfer portal, but they're playing pretty solid defense. Their special teams makes a play here or there, and I feel like going into the game on Friday, that's what we have to do. We can't turn the ball over. We've got to do what we can to have good field position. It's tough enough to move the ball on these guys, but if you're having to go 80 yards every time, it's going to be hard to make it all the way down the field and score. And at the same time, we got to see if we can find some ways to create some turnovers and give ourselves opportunities to have a short field. And obviously, if we can create those turnovers, that takes an opportunity away from them to be able to score. So just the little things, control, we can control, communicate really well, and make sure that we're lined up how we need to be defensively. Offensively, can't take off any snaps. Everyone certainly matters, like to stay ahead of the chains as much as we possibly can. And just have no regrets, make sure that we're preparing as hard as we can now and playing as hard as we can on Friday.
Nicc, thank you so much for your time. Wish you the best luck, and we'll catch you down here on Friday.
All right. Thank you. See you then.
We continue the conversation on the Class 2A state championship. It's a rematch from week 1. We've already talked with Lovell head coach Nicc Crosby. Now we're talking with Bighorn head coach Kirk McLaughlin. And Kirk, that game was so long ago. I don't want to necessarily take you back and say, can you take anything away from it? But do you remember the atmosphere and what that game was like? Even though I know both teams are pretty different now here, 2.5 months later.
Yeah, it was an exciting game. We came out, played pretty well early, and they kind of took control in the second quarter, and we battled back in the second half. It was a great environment. We were on the losing end of things, but it was a very exciting game, a very hard fought game. I had told my assistant coaches after the game that felt like a playoff game, and it was pretty. The games after that didn't feel the same. That was two good teams battling it out, and I watched the film again. I checked it out again, and I just looking at our team, it's like, who are they? It's like I feel like we're quite a bit different. We've shown a lot of improvement, so I'm excited about that.
How would you assess how you've played in the 2 playoff games leading into this championship?
Well, there's been some really bad things, like defensively, we did not play great that first round. Mountain View really came out and they took it to us, and we had to really go back to the drawing board a little bit, and that our defense really improved from first round to the semifinal round against Lyman. But then offensively, we turned the ball over too many times this last game, and we were a little bit we moved the ball a lot better that first round. So we just got to put everything together for offensively and defensively, and continue to do good things on the special teams as well.
What are you stressing in championship week with your team? I mean, you're not installing probably anything new. You're not trying to change a lot. So what are you really stressing this week?
Focus on us, focus on what we got to do to be prepared, and be ready for that game, and not let the environment or the atmosphere of the game take away from actually what we need to do to win the game.
What are your thoughts on what you're seeing out of Coach Crosby's bunch right now?
They look, they just look that much better. you know, at the beginning of the season, I said they were a physical, disciplined team, and I'd say that again and again. They look a lot more comfortable in their scheme. You know, that's what's been different too leading into this game, is that I went with a 0-week scrimmage film, which can always be pretty ugly, to, you know, a season's worth of film, and feel a lot more confident with what they do. But, you know, knowing them, they've got some tricks up their sleeves, and they're a good team. They're not undefeated, #1 team for a reason, and we've got our hands full.
Well, the only loss you had the whole season was against them. So what are your keys? I'm not asking for the game plan or for you to tell me what tricks are up your sleeve by any stretch of the imagination, but what are you looking for coming up on Friday from your group?
We got to just come ready to play and be focused on the game. We've got to control the football and take care of the football. We can't be having silly turnovers like we had the previous week. And we've got to come ready to play a physical football team.
Well, Kirk, I wish you nothing but the best luck. We'll see you on Friday afternoon.
All right. Thank you guys at the Wyopreps. Appreciate you guys.